Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast with Michael Cole and Matthew Cravat. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Cravat.
Tonight's topic it was Sarah's idea. Sarah is my wife, for anybody who's listening and doesn't know. It was Sarah's idea, and we are going to talk about irrational anger. And so irrational anger. I personally think we should talk about rational versus irrational before we start getting into examples. Because you mentioned earlier when we were,
first thought when I saw it is like, I'm a very rational, angry person right now. It seems oxymoronic, like, or just axiomatic, right? All anger is irrational. But then you say, you can have a righteous anger about what's going on in the world. You can be defending your loved ones and be angry at someone, and there's nothing irrational about it. You may behave irrationally after you get angry because of the adrenaline flow and the other biochemical things, but sometimes it is a rational response to the stimuli around you to be angry.
Yeah. And I liked the distinction you made about, like, that doesn't mean you're behaving rationally once you get angry, but the anger itself, and what Sarah was talking about, I think, was anger that doesn't start off from a place of rationality.
God damn you cheated on me in my dream.
Yeah.
And now I'm mad at you all day.
Yeah. Luckily, she doesn't do that to me. And unfortunately, I think irrational anger is one of those things that we tend to have a blind spot to in ourselves. So, like, if I'm angry about something, I may not think it's irrational, even if it is irrational. And I don't want to ask her what an example of my irrational anger is, because I don't want to get pissed off. Like, that's not irrational. Because I already know like 2 or 3 that she would say, and I'm like, no, those aren't irrational. Do you have anything that you think makes you angry irrationally?
Actually, I love irrational anger because it is my argument against the concept of a soul in the religious sense of a soul. I mean, people say, like, because if you're going to say there's something that's me besides the meat that makes up me.
Yeah.
And it's my memories, my thoughts, my behavior, my personality is tied up in something spiritual or electronic or, what energy based, whatever you want to say a soul is. Then I say, then how come I get irrationally angry when I'm overly tired or overly hungry? My blood sugar drops. Like, why does the meat change my personality if I have a soul and that's my personality? Clearly, to me, I am the meat that is in this flesh bag. Otherwise, my anger would not be irrational. I wouldn't, based on physical stimuli, and it clearly is often.
Yeah, or it wouldn't at least not alter its sense of rationality. Even you would be irrationally angry about the same thing every time.
Would that be irrational then? Yeah,
potentially. Like, I'll give an example. It's not that I get angry, but I jokingly get it. Like, I end up having the argument, which is like, does sauce go on pasta immediately, or do you let someone add a dollop and you have this this unsauced pasta and they just have a dollop on top? And I'm like, no, it's going to clump up and dry up. Don't do that. Put it in sauce so that it.
The whole idea of cooking pasta al dente is to finish the last minute or two in the pasta.
Yeah,
that's the whole idea. You move it from the water to the sauce.
Yeah,
that's how you cook it.
Okay, so you're saying that I'm rational in this anger.
Yeah, it's perfectly justified. I don't know if getting angry about it is a rational, rational response, but it's clearly the correct culinary choice.
Yeah, it's more of a frustration thing for me than an anger.
It takes a pretty picture. If you have nice, beautiful white pasta with tomato sauce pooled up in the middle, that's a pretty Instagram photo, but that's not how you cook the food. The food's supposed to be finished, at least in the sauce.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of, like, aesthetically pleasing versus the way it should be. We have you seen those Momofuku noodles at the grocery store?
I don't know if I've actually seen them in the grocery store, but I've seen social media advertisements for them.
So. They're excellent, and everyone should get them if you like Asian noodles. They're amazing, and they're like not like it's not like getting like a ramen noodle, like, was it Maruchan ramen noodles?
It's like
they're good. They're good quality, and you could taste the difference in just the noodle itself, but also, like, you add a bunch of shit to it, right? Like, You add like maybe some pickled red onions or some, you dice up some carrots into like little sticks like you would at like a noodle place. So we did that yesterday because we've been getting them a lot lately because we like them, and it's a good chance for us to mix a bunch of vegetables in, and it's not nearly as expensive as going out and getting it. And you mix in some little corn and all those different things. And I was like, when I was prepping everything for lunch yesterday, I was like, we should take a picture of this and like tag Mamafuko in it since we're making it. And then when we made it, I was like, this isn't pretty. And I realized it's because we didn't like at a restaurant they'll have like all of the corn will be in one section and this will be, and then you mix it all up. And I was like, I'm not fucking doing that. Like I want it mixed and I want it well mixed because I like a little bit of the different flavors at the same time and the different textures. And so, yeah.
You're not a food separator.
I am not usually. I mean, there's certain kinds of things I would. If they're not.
It used to be to such an extent that he ate lasagna layer by layer. Like he ate the top layer. Like he'd go down in layers eating lasagna. He wouldn't cut a multi-layered slice.
There are certain foods that I will eat separately, but if we're having like a Thanksgiving dinner kind of thing, I don't mind some of the stuff touching. But like I would prefer I eat in waves, so I eat like one step at a time, and like I don't want gravy or mashed potatoes on my stuffing because my stuffing is perfect, and so my stuffing needs to be kind of separate so that it doesn't get soggy or gross from gravy. But like when it comes,
do you make a food dam?
Yeah, I usually
put the layers of roast carrots here, like a little log cabin wall.
Something like that, where I would to keep the gravy away from it. But yeah, and if I don't get it that way, I get irrationally angry.
Yeah,
actually, I think all my irrational anger, almost everything I can think of that's irrational, would be food based.
And I think the place where I think I'm most susceptible to irrational anger is not the initial anger, but the anger that piles on. Push my buttons long enough and get me angry, and now I'm going to be angry at everything. Like now that I'm in an angry zone,
oh yeah,
I'm going to be angry.
Yeah, I try. I mean, I think that we're all susceptible to that, and it's tough. Like when like it. Not that it's necessarily the same exact example, but like when you get to a point where you've just had enough of somebody, you like everything they do drives you crazy.
What were we just saying before the record?
Yeah.
Look at him sitting there eating fucking chicken.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's really hard. I think it's tough, and I try to remember, and I think I'm pretty good about this, that like we can't. It's unhelpful. Not only is it like it's unhelpful for us to have that particular type of irrational anger, and we see it politically all the time, and I'll use the left as an example. Like when we on the left dislike somebody for very valid reasons, when they do something that is like, it wouldn't drive us crazy if anybody else did it, it will drive us crazy when they do it. And it's not helpful when we do that. Like I think we need to pick and choose our battles and be like, this is a thing worth fighting for. If Matt Gaetz likes pineapple on a pizza and we wouldn't normally get flip out about pineapple on a pizza, we shouldn't flip out on Matt Gaetz for having pineapple on a pizza. I don't know that he does or doesn't. I'm just using him as an example because he's a very hateable person.
I think Ted Cruz would be a better example because he's actually Canadian.
Sure. Yeah. Either way, but like when we dislike somebody, we need to like try to say, okay, that would not be a deal breaker for any other person, so I need to just not use it as an argument or a thing to get upset about with this super hateable, punchable face person like Ted Cruz or Matt Gaetz. I just need to keep the facts of like, Matt Gaetz is a creepy, terrible person. Those are true statements, and he has opinions that I don't agree with, but like they wouldn't bother me if like you, for example, had. Like if you told me.
But I'm not. I don't have sex with underage women. I mean, I know you're okay.
I meant the pineapple pizza as
I know you're okay with that opinion from some people, but that's not one of mine. That's on you, buddy.
I'm okay with underage people having sex with other underage people, assuming it's all consensual, like and within reason.
Really? There's the times that Logan's hooking up with his friends, like, and you're like, Daddy will tiptoe around the room.
Within reason. Like, if two 15-year-olds have sex, I don't think it should be illegal or it should be a problem legally. I think it's something that maybe you should stop as a parent. You should be like, hey, that's not a good thing for you at this age. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the only thing I was saying. You have gotten me to say
Out
some
of
very...
all the people in the world, you take someone who's known for child molesting and say the bad thing about him is he has pineapple on his pizza.
No, I didn't say that.
That's what you said. The only thing I don't like about Matt Gaetz is that he has pineapple pizza.
The one downside.
When he takes a 14-year-old for pizza, it's Hawaiian style. What the hell?
He didn't. It was...
Where you draw your lines is a strange place, my friend.
Well, to defend Matt Gaetz for a second, I'm not gonna. I was gonna say I think that the women that he
Women,
is
children.
sure, but in North Carolina, women. If that all those things happened here, although the across state lines might be illegal still, which it's one of those things where we like we have the age of consent is 16, but you can't take pictures. Like there's so many weird little like things there.
Weird you know these little details. That's weird.
The 16 thing I know because of you, and I think that it's illegal to take pictures of anyone under 18 anywhere in the United States, isn't it?
Well, yeah, maybe you have to be 18
Yeah.
to take photos for sure. Yeah. So
and I would think
you can be married at 16 and you could, 13 probably. I don't know what the age is. Probably 13 with parental consent, but you can't take a picture at your wedding. Well, at least not a nude one.
Yeah, it's a real fucking weird. And anyway, so that's all I was gonna say is
and that's where you draw the line. Pineapple pizza.
Yeah, it's not the crimes against humanity that the guy does. Glad that this is your current. The May jokes are all about.
Let me correct myself. The youngest you can get married legally in North Carolina is 14. If there's a district court order, which is usually if the female is pregnant or has already given birth.
Is that for both the women and the boy and the girl, or just the girl? Because
the boy doesn't have to have given birth.
No. But I'm saying to get married. Because there used to be the state laws were like 14 for girls and 16 for boys, or 12 for girls, 14 for boys.
I don't know. I'm just reading the AI overview. I don't really have a good site. I just Googled age of marriage. It's 18 and older is normal. 16 to 17 is with written consent of a parent guardian, or if you've been legally emancipated. 14 to 15 may marry the district court order, particularly if the female is pregnant or has given birth. Under 14, it is unlawful.
Yeah, I think
that changed in 2021. That's why that became the age. It was younger before that.
I know that I hate Massachusetts, but Massachusetts seems to be on the right side of almost everything, because when I just Googled it, states with a complete ban on child marriage: Connecticut, Delaware, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New Jersey. Actually, it's a lot more states than I would have thought. I would have guessed it would have been 2 or 3, because they're constantly talking about how religious people want to make it a discrimination thing to say you can't get married before 18. Anyway,
it's one of the fun things that it was the Republic has been fighting for years to not raise the age to 16.
Yeah,
they wanted it younger, and mostly it's because they want to be in the church. Elders like to marry young members of the church. Is the big reason.
Fucking gross.
Yeah, but I will say one of the champions of raising the age in North Carolina is Durham, North Carolina House Representative Marsha Morey, who is one of Leah's really good friends. She's a former judge and did juvenile court, I think, at some point. So she's familiar with those areas of the law a lot.
Yeah, that's good. I'll keep that in mind. Especially if she gets into anything that
I'll introduce you if you need help with your issue.
No, I just mean if there's anybody if she's ever in an election that I want to, that I get to vote for.
Yeah, I don't think so unless she goes to the national level, because she's a Durham-based person.
Yeah.
Unless you move to Durham. Maybe you move to Durham one day and you vote for Marsha.
Yeah. I think I'm not a pro single issue voter, but I feel like there are certain issues that should disqualify you singly. And I think if you're defending child marriage at this point in history, like, yeah, sorry, but no,
Yeah.
I'm not going to vote for you. Or if you're defending child marriage and you're still the best option, then so we're just fucked. Okay. But I will say this about irrational anger. Since I got my medication right, I don't think I've had any problems with irrational anger. Um, but I'm a masshole, so like road rage wise, I get irrationally angry about stuff. Um, I don't know.
So I think the real question we have to ask ourselves, talk about the big stuff, is what prompted Sarah to say that you're irrationally angry and should deal with it on the show?
I think she did not. I don't remember why it came up. It was like a week ago.
I don't remember, that bitch was talking. I really wasn't listening to
I
it.
do not call her that word. She went early in our relationship, like, I don't know. I jokingly said like, "Bitch, make my dinner" or something, and she was like so upset. And we had this long conversation. I was like, "I was just joking. I'm sorry." And she goes, "I would rather you call me a cunt than a bitch." And I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that." So I just don't use either.
That's the difference in generations. My wife is Generation X. She's like, she would be like, definitely the bitch with a capital T and a capital B, and proud of it.
Yeah. Well, also, like, even though she didn't grow up all the time in Massachusetts, she was raised by Northeasterners, and I feel like we use the word cunt a lot differently than the rest of. We're almost British about it.
Yeah.
Like, so.
Do you ever watch is it Darren? I forget his last name. The Irish social media sensation.
Maybe I don't know.
No, it's Garen. Garen with a G. I think it's not Darren. That Darren's too normal. It's like Garen. I think he's a singer, musician, but he's became a social media phenomenon in Ireland. Like he's the only famous Irish social media person. And follow him. He's delicious. And he that's his tagline. And he recently was covering some news that they said that like for some study said that that the most profanity laden country is the U.S. and like it was an Australian lead author who's like people are going to be mad about this because there's countries like a lot of these British spin-off colonies are proud of their profanity, and Garen is like you guys can't even say cunt. It's like how can you do it? You're the most boring. You're minor leaguers. You may say the F word a lot, but you don't say it with any creativity.
I would guess, and if I were to guess what the purpose of, or the way that information was discovered or assessed or whatever, is that we are the most profanity laden in what we consider profanity. Because I think that like so much of what we consider profanity isn't in other places, and yet we still say it. Like people will be like, "Don't say fuck." Like I've heard. Americans are so like weirdly like. It's similar to like we're a very puritanical culture compared to a lot of other um, developed countries or whatever they call what they used to call first world or whatever. But like we're the same, but we also have like a shitload of unwanted pregnancy and all these other issues because we're not dealing with it properly. Like we're not saying like, oh, everyone wants to do this thing, so it must not be a problem. Instead, we're saying it's a problem and everyone does it. So swearing, you know what I'm saying, right? I'm not saying it well, but
so here's Popular Science's coverage of the study.
yeah.
Congratulations, United States. The nation may lag behind in healthcare, education, and life expectancy, but Americans still reign supreme in at least one way: swearing like a bunch of drunken sailors. Yeah, sorry. Linguists in Australia recently analyzed a global web-based English corpus, Globally, a massive database containing 1.9 billion words from 1.8 million web pages across 340,000 websites in 20 English-speaking countries. So apparently it's online. We are the most online profane people.
Yeah. See, because like I don't consider what I say profane, so I would say that I'm.
And to be specific, the Irish genius who I really love, and you should go follow him on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, is Garen, Garron, Noon, Noone, or No One. Maybe it's No One. Garen Noon. He's really good. Follow him. He's delicious. I highly recommend him. He's a funny follow.
Oh, okay. He looks familiar. Oh,
He looks
he's
like you. You're saying that because he looks like you. You just see a reflection of yourself. Like, he looks like me. He's a healthy sized person with a beard. It's me.
healthy size. What is that supposed to mean?
And it means you lost too much weight for me to say fat.
I was gonna say I've lost a little bit of weight. I've lost 25 pounds. But the new camera and the new lighting angle, it makes it look like I have like a chiseled jaw,
Yeah,
or like,
you're very handsome.
and it's just this light right here, like, or this
Yeah.
shade or whatever that's like reflecting black onto here.
Yeah.
But it does make me look thinner, and I was like,
Yeah,
ooh.
honestly, it's hard to make fat jokes about you when you've lost so much weight. So I think it was healthy.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna hopefully keep losing weight, but yeah.
Yeah. So we were we're going on a little vacation. We were shopping for snacks, and I'm like, I don't want any. I'm not like, we got snacks for everybody's favorite snack, and like nothing for me. I'm like, I'm sure I will snack, but
Yeah.
like while I'm sober, so to speak, in the grocery store, let me not bring stuff that's just make me fatter. Let me just hopefully like there will be nothing that I want, and I will have to just not snack.
Nice, yeah. So now that you have adult kids, by the way, what do you guys get? 3 hotel rooms or a suite or
No, we're getting 2 rooms every place, and it's we're getting a queen size or king size depending on the place bed for the 2 of us, and the Joseph and Leah will get 2 queens in every room.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because we most of the time now, like right now, if we get a hotel room somewhere, we get a 2 queen room. One of us sleeps with Logan because the 2 of us we're used to a king. But like it's either that or we get a king and a couch, and he lays on the pullout or whatever.
Yeah, well, we used to when they were young. Because we had 3 kids, so it would be 2 queens, and we'd get a cot delivered to the room.
Yeah.
So someone would end up in the cot, and it was like when it made it weird because there was someone like what you never knew who it was going to be. Whoever was fed up with sleeping with their siblings, like it wasn't like the youngest gets the cot or something. It was or the oldest gets the cot. It was like rotating through depending on the length of a trip.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
But then most of our vacations we do through my in-laws' old timeshare. So we would have multiple bedroom places. So
yeah, going forward, we're hoping to.
Beach, this past Christmas time, and it was Molly and I had the master bedroom with master bath. My mother had the secondary bedroom with her own bathroom, and then Leah had a room, I think, with 2 queen size or 2 double size beds in it, and Joseph had a room with a queen. So like we each had their own room, plus Leah had an extra bed.
Yeah. Do you guys think that at any point in going forward that you'll get to a point where Jacob and his wife start joining you for vacations, or
they tend to not be available? Like we've invited like we're well, in 2020 when we were going to Myrtle Beach, we had invited them to come with us, and we purposely got a timeshare that had a second room, like a half apartment across the hall, so they could just come back and forth to us. And then they ended up planning on going to Saudi Arabia instead. So we invited other friends to come with us, and then there was a pandemic, so we canceled the trip anyway.
Yeah.
So like you said, like this trip, they were in Saudi. Like we tend to vacation Christmas, and they were in Saudi. This week they're not. I mean, they were never planning on coming us to Alaska. Like there was just too big of a trip with the vacation time for them, because they say the vacation up usually to go to Saudi Arabia at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But it turns out they're actually going to London while we're in Alaska, because my daughter-in-law's parents are taking a trip to London. That's like halfway from Saudi to here, so they're going to basically meet them halfway and meet them in London for a couple of days.
Nice. The only reason I ask is like we would travel a little bit with for weekends and stuff with my parents and my sister and her kids, but we didn't start like rejoining the full vacations until 3 or 4 years ago. We started going like to the ranch that my grandfather takes everybody to, and that's mostly because we got to a point where it was like, okay, well, Logan will get something out of this, but like I wouldn't pick to go on that trip ever. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to waste my vacation time on it, but not that I have vacation time right now. So that's
yeah. So we've invited Jacob to a couple of trips where he has said no. Like we if the other kids are coming, he's invited, but they've just their schedule hasn't worked out. And he teaches college, so he's not just taking time off from work. He'd miss classes depending on when it is. And so that's why, like, if it's Christmas, he probably already has plans because that's his vacation time.
Yeah, that makes sense. But that's cool. That, like, you guys are getting a chance to go to, take the kids and
Yeah, take the adults, kids. But yeah, it's like before pre-pandemic, there was a time when the rest of my siblings and my parents went on an Alaskan cruise, and just we were not a place where we can go at the time with the
Yeah.
kids and what things were going on, or whatever. So we ended up not going. My parents forever were like, "We want to send you on a cruise to Alaska," and then the pandemic happened. We're like, "We're not going on a cruise. We don't want to deal with that."
Yeah.
And so, but we like the idea of going to Alaska, so we're just going.
We want to go, and my sister's going on a cruise. Logan's first week of school this coming school year, and my sister kept being like, "Do you want to go?" And I'm like, "This is the first." Like, she's asked me about every cruise for the last 5 years, and I'm like, I have no fucking desire to go on a cruise. And she finally called. She goes, "I know that you're gonna," or she texted. And she said, "I know you're gonna say no, but we're going on a cruise to Alaska." And I'm like, "What are the dates? This is what I'm actually interested in." And then we found out that and I like entertained the thought, but we had to wait for the school calendar to come out and stuff, because it was like a year ago that they started talking about it. And I'm like, I would like to do this. This sounds really
It's
cool.
a really risky time, though.
But it's Logan's first week of school. Logan's going into like a AIG program this coming year. That's when they start that. And I'm like, it would be different if it was later in the year, because we'd know like how he's
Missing a
doing.
week of class is a lot of class if you're in that kind of
Yeah,
program.
and we don't want him to get off to a bad start, so we just had to.
Going to class like that means he's having all new classmates, not his old friends, and so
No, a lot of his old friends are, because it doesn't start until third grade at the school. So all of the kids that are going to be in his third grade it's the first year for all of them. So like he already knows two of his best friends are in it, and he knows kids from other years that he was in class with that'll be in it. So like and that was how we convinced him, because he was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And we're like, what if you just give it a try?
It's a bad move.
Huh?
It's a bad move. He's right. Bad move.
And we were like, what if you just like give it a try? We can pull you out. Like, we talked to the teacher, and they started doing like sample ones this year. Like in like a month ago or so, they like once a week they bring him in for like an hour to show them this AIG stuff. And he's like, yeah, my friend this and my friend that are all in it. And I'm like, so you're happy? And he goes, it's really cool. And I'm like, perfect. So, it's the kind of thing where we have to make sure that he isn't missing the first week of that, because I don't want to like fuck his year up by doing that. Like, three things
How
that
does
I've
it relate to irrationally anger? So you had irrational anger during the pasta sex discussion?
No. I think this is just a talking about the small stuff episode now.
Started with anger and spun off.
I just don't know that the topic will sustain us, just like irrational anger will not sustain us.
Sustains my friend Bruce. Speaking of, today, the day that we're recording, one of the best, Bruce was Bruce Banner, the Incredible Hulk, Irrational Anger, it's an Irrational Anger reference. But the one of my favorite Incredible Hulk writers died today, or was announced today that he died, Peter David, and he's the one who invented the concept of the Smart Hulk as the Hulk's base state that you see now in the current movies, where he's kind of integrated himself, post Endgame.
Yeah.
So that's a Peter David thing. So like the version of Aquaman that Jason Momoa's look came from, with long wild hair instead of a short little '60s cut, was also from his run as writer on Aquaman. But I digress. That's what we're a lot of Star Trek novels, really good Star Trek novels.
I read a book. It was like an actual novel, not a graphic novel, of the Hulk when I was 12, maybe. And it was Smart Hulk, but it was when he would get angry, he would turn into Hulk brain with Banner body. So he was like completely useless.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember it being like, oh, that's a weird.
That happened in the Peter David storyline, in his story.
It may have been him that wrote the novel.
In the process of becoming Smart Hulk, that was one of the stages that happened. Like, there was a huge explosion, and they hear Hulk's voice, and they're like, shit, and the smoke clears, and it's Banner standing there going, Hulk is the strongest one there is, and it's just Bruce Banner. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been his novelization of his comic run. Did he get to Smart Hulk by having psychiatrist Dr. Leonard Sampson psychoanalyze him and help him join his personalities? That's what it was in the comic.
In the book that I read, he was Smart Hulk from the start. Like,
Okay,
not from the start of the book, not the smart.
yeah. It picked up. He was already.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea that he came up with that he was like a mutant and he would have become Hulk anyway, eventually, but because he was so abused by his father, he was repressed his emotions and never had the emotional maturity to change in his powers until the Gamma Blast released it from him. And so he should have been one person all along. And neither Bruce Banner nor the Hulk is the base personality. Like Bruce Banner is a Weasley and nerdy and doesn't drink, and the Hulk was like a toddler. Smart Hulk drinks, is more casual, is much more confident. Like it's like where he should have been all his life.
Yeah. I'm looking it up. If it's this one that just came up, it is Peter David that wrote it. This would have been in '95, so that would have been, but it would have been out still. I would have been 12 after that or whatever. I definitely would have read after that.
It definitely could have been. He was, like I said, he wrote a lot of novels, and
Yeah,
and he wrote one of the best Hulk runs.
yeah. One of the big ones that I read, or one of the big things that I remember from it was, it was a weird thing, but he had to get a special keyboard so that he could type as Smart Hulk because of his fingers. And at the same time, around the same time, I read a Spider-Man one where he was like looking for somebody in Florida, and it was explaining how he would like, it was like, what's the swamp called in Florida? The Everglades?
Oh, the
The Everglades, and he was like, instead of like being able to like swing, he had to like do the slingshot thing around the Florida Everglades.
Yeah. Happens in the Central Park in the Spider-Man video game.
Yeah, I like the Spider-Man video game.
What I love about the Spider-Man video game series is that it hasn't changed since PlayStation 2. I mean, it's gotten better graphics and better style, but the basic gameplay of free range around the city, different sections of the city have different gangs or criminal activities happening, and you clear the city by doing missions. Like it's the game is basically the same game since PlayStation 2, just more advanced, fancier.
Yeah.
So here's a cool Peter David thing. At the last comic convention I went to, Raleigh SuperCon, I went with Blooper, one of my puppets, and when we got to Peter David's table, Blooper said hello to him. Hello, Mr. David. I'm a very big fan of yours. And he looked at Blooper for a second, and then he turned and looked at me dead in the eyes and said, "I don't talk to the puppet." And that nobody does that. Everybody talks to the puppet. Like you can't help talk to the puppet. I was like, oh my God, this man has a willpower of iron. And then we started chatting, and then his wife comes over to join him, and she like got away to get a drink or something. And she goes, "Oh my God, your puppet's brilliant. Can I see him?" And I was like, "Sure." And puppet, and she goes, "Yeah, I'm a puppeteer. Tomorrow I'll bring one of my puppets, and I have one at the hotel." And I'm like, "Oh, that's why he doesn't talk to puppets. His wife is a puppeteer. Like he's immune to the puppet's charms." But it was great. Like I talked to him like for a lot that day, and then the next day also when we talked to his wife about puppets and talked to him, and he was very gracious with his time. He was very cool. He wrote a Star Trek book called Mzadi, where if you know your Star Trek Next Gen, in the first episode in the pilot Encounter at Farpoint, you find out that Riker and Deanna used to be lovers when they were younger, and their word for each other, like beloved or dear, was Mzadi. It's like the Betazoid word for like soulmates or whatever.
Yeah.
So he wrote a book, Mzadi, about their relationship, like in the hardcover romantic Star Trek novel that Madhavi and I both really liked. And when we got married, Madhavi and I, not Peter David and I, but Madhavi and I got married, her wedding gift to me was a gold pocket watch with Mzadi engraved on the inside.
Nice.
So I had to tell him that. I said, it was because of your book, not because of the TV series, that she got the watch.
Yeah. We have been showing Logan Lord of the Rings the last week and a half. Where
the real one from the 70s or the movie?
The movies. We're somewhat into Two Towers. I think we're about to the part where Gollum is like, "Nobody likes you." Like the back and forth. I think we're almost to that point. I had seen all three. I've seen Two Towers probably the most because I loved Gollum. I thought that Andy Serkis deserved an Academy Award nomination the year that came out, and I was like pissed that he didn't get one. But I haven't really watched it since. And I didn't like Return of the King when it first came out because it's so long and it feels like it has like 9 natural endings that happened before.
5. It's 5.
5, okay. And I also like pissed off my friend Pat.
Unfortunately, that's the way the book is too. I mean, like it's things like you have, like it's hard to and it's actually missing really the best ending in the book isn't even the Scouring of the Shire isn't even in it, but it's like all those things need to be tied up, and there's no graceful way to tie them up because they happen in different places physically.
Yeah. So I like, yeah, I've been getting into it more than I had been when they came out. Just like I'm like more mature and I was getting it better. And I texted my friend Pat and I was like, hey, like we're not to Return of the King yet, but I was like, hey, I'm really sorry that I ruined Return of the King for you. Like these are so much better than I remembered. And he's like, how did you ruin Return of the King for me? And I said, every time Sam and Frodo were on screen together, I yelled kiss every single time. And he was like, I don't remember that. I just remember when Sam carries Frodo, us all going Rudy, Rudy, which I don't remember doing that. But
The funny is, I did not like the Two Towers theatrical release,
no,
but I really like the Two Towers extended edition.
yeah,
And most of you, they changed Faramir's personality from the book severely in the movie with no real reason given in the theatrical release. In the extended edition, they have background stuff with him and his father. They go, oh, that's why he's acting the way he's acting. Now it makes sense.
yeah.
And he was supposed to be a contrast to his brother, and he really wasn't in the theatrical release in the way that he should be.
Yeah.
And then in the extended version, and conversely, I don't like in the extended release of Fellowship of the Ring, they ruin one of the best moments. But when they're in Moria, in the book and in the theatrical release, when Frodo gets speared by the troll, you're like, holy fuck, he got speared. And then they go, oh, don't forget he has this magic shirt on. And you're like, oh my God, I totally forgot the magic shirt existed. Because like, you're so caught up in why would you remember that? But in the extended edition, while they're working through the caves, Gandalf noticed a mithril like in the wall. He goes, "Oh, a mithril! It's the most expensive thing. We make armor of this, and it's impenetrable." And he looks down and goes, "Well, we're in the shirt." Like they remind you of the shirt right before the scene happens. And like that made it worse. Like that was a bad scene to add.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Logan's really liking it, and I'm liking it better than I did last time. And it's a lot for him to like understand. Like, so I'll be like, oh yeah, that's Aragorn, and he's like, that's the guy with the beard. I'm like, I mean, there's a lot of guys with beards, but yes, he's got one of the shortest beards. But yes, sorry,
It's a dark-haired guy.
the nut jobs are barking.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be a recording without.
Did you play any D&D?
No.
When you were younger? So here's the thing in D&D that's interesting related to Lord of the Rings. Well, in Lord of the Rings, Elrond is called half elven, right? So he's in some way a mix of man and elvish. He has human blood, so he's half elven. And in the comics,
Funny, he didn't look elvish.
And in D&D, you could also have half orcs.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, what about hobbits or halflings? What if human and a halfling had offspring? Would they be half halfling? And would that make them a quarterling, or would that make them 3/4ling because they'd be in between a human and a halfling?
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago on our record, you made the joke that I just made, and I don't know if I didn't hear you when you said it or what. But when we were editing, I was like, "Oh, that's a Spaceballs joke. How did I not get that in the moment?" And but I can't tell from my reaction on the video whether or not it was one of those moments where you buffered or what.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't hear it. Because I try not to be like, oh, he's buffering, because I don't want to have to cut that out.
Yeah.
So I just usually I'm decent about that. But so yeah, you said it, and I'm like, I can't tell why I didn't react properly to it, but I got the joke. Just so we're clear.
Maybe storm off the call because you don't get my reference.
Yeah, funny.
Were you old enough? I mean, did you see Have you ever seen Dogma? Now that it's coming back out again,
I've seen it a couple times, once or twice. I remember at some point getting my mom and my aunt to watch it, and they were I was probably like 15, 16, and they were like, "This is sacrilegious." I'm like,
Buddy Jesus kind of is.
Yeah, but I mean, it's sacrilegious in the sense that it goes against Catholicism more than it goes against God. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, same thing if you're a Catholic, isn't it?
yeah,
If you
true.
think that's the one truth, I mean,
Yeah. But like I feel like
right.
Jesus would like if personally the way I always felt about Jesus was like Jesus would probably find Buddy Jesus fine.
Yeah, he's Jewish. He had a sense of humor.
Yeah. Well, not to mention like Jesus is supposed to be like like in the way that we're supposed to see him as Christians is as a comfort, as somebody, you know, like a comfort and a guide. And like we have the very dour, like emaciated, you know, ripped abs, ribs showing, holes in his side Jesus, because we want to remember the crucifixion, and not like the like guy who was making wine at the wedding, and Buddy Jesus, the guy making the wine at the wedding.
Mm-hmm. If he wanted to, he could make vitamins into amphetamines.
Yeah,
It's a, that's a musical reference for you there. That's a King Missile reference.
nice,
Jesus was way cool is the name of the song. Jesus was way cool.
nice.
He turned water into wine, and if he wanted to, he could turn vitamins into amphetamines or cigarettes into joints. Which is not an exact quote, but it was something like that.
Yeah. The only part of the movie that I remember that I genuinely was like, okay, I understand why they're upset about that is when they talk about Mary being not being a virgin, and not that that part itself is like a big problem, but like that's a Catholic specific thing. Not that's not all like it's one of those things that has become all Christianity again. But for a little while, it was like a specific sect belief that she was always a virgin, not just a virgin at the time of his birth.
Yeah,
And
didn't he have siblings?
well, and was it what was Chris Rock's name? Rufus or something?
Yeah.
The Rufus, and
Awesome.
he says like, no, she was a virgin when she got pregnant. She wasn't a virgin the whole time. Like
She was married.
I think he said Mary fucked, and I just remember being like, okay, well that's probably like genuinely offensive to.
So looks like I walked off the podcast when you didn't get my Star Wars references.
Yeah.
When I saw that movie, I saw it with a buddy from work, and the scene where they're on the train and they have the fight on the train, and Silent Bob, Kevin Smith, throws someone off the train, and he turns around and goes, "No tickets." I cracked up, and Jamie didn't react, and I was like, "Jamie, don't you get it? It's from
Last
Indiana
Crusade.
Jones and the Last Crusade."
It's the hot air balloon.
Right. When
Okay.
they're on the Zeppelin, he goes,
Zeppelin. Yeah.
and
Sorry.
Jamie goes, "Oh, I've never seen that." I was like, "Fuck you, Jamie." How have you never seen that? I was so mad at him. So mad for him not having seen the best of the movies of the Indiana Jones.
I agree that I like it's the most enjoyable. I don't know that I would say it's the best, but it's definitely the most enjoyable of the three. Do you have any plans on watching the Fountain of Youth movie? Have you not even seen the ads for it?
I don't even know what the Fountain of Youth movie is.
Apple
Isn't
TV.
that one of the fourth or the fifth or the sixth Pirates of the Caribbean movie? Wasn't that one?
Maybe, I don't know. This is it's
One of them was
Guy Ritchie. It came out Friday on Apple TV. It was John Krasinski, Stanley Tucci, Natalie Portman.
Okay.
Great cast. Decently, like it was like a decently fun movie. But I'm going to spoil it for you if you're cool with that. And
Sure.
it is Last Crusade. Like they get to the Fountain of Youth. He gets to the Fountain of Youth and like I mean it's not they don't choose, but like he gets in the water and the water's like around him and like he basically like goes I'm okay and the water lets him go and then the bad guy gets in the water and is like yes like I'll take it all and then he like literally does like ages and like and I'm like okay but this is just a different MacGuffin to get to the same spot which there was enough other things in the movie that were kind of like it was a fun movie, but there was a secret society trying to protect it because it needs to be protected from being discovered by man, just like in Last Crusade. Like so many things, and I love Guy Ritchie. Like right now, he's probably my favorite director, and I was like, this is like a one for them, right? Like, and I was texting Pat again, and I said because he texted me about a movie that reminded him of Today's Modern Man, and have you seen the ads for Friendship?
Yes.
He said Friendship is like if we made Today's Modern Man into a feature film, and I'm like, that makes me want to see it because I don't have a clue how you mean that. But so we were texting about movies, and I was like, I just watched The Fountain of Youth, and I just, I'm genuinely like, it was come on, Guy Ritchie. Like his last movie that I saw, like the most recent movie was a year ago. It was the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. It's Inglorious Bastards, but true and British. It was amazing. Like he's been on such a streak, and then he did this, and I'm like, eh.
So I have a movie thing for you, but it's not a movie thing, but it's also a 1980s thing. That's not a 1980s thing. Leah and I went to DPAC yesterday for the Broadway South series for the musical version of Back to the Future.
Was it good?
It's really weird because
we saw that it was playing like 6 months ago, and we almost bought. We were like, should we buy tickets for this?
So your friend Oscar, the movie award guy, right? The Academy Award guy, Oscar, right?
Yeah.
I have been known to say I don't understand why there's a Best Picture Oscar that's voted on. Like I always say, shouldn't you just score point values to Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting, and whoever gets the most points out of winning the most of those is the Best Picture by default. And I no longer, as of yesterday, watching Back to the Future, think that's valid because the acting in it was fine. Nobody was a standout actor. They were doing, it's a cheesy thing. It was cheesy.
Yeah.
It's fine. The songs kind of sucked. None of you would not listen to the soundtrack ever again in your life. There's not a single song that was besides the Huey Lewis songs.
I was going to say, then take me away.
Besides Back to the Future,
Power of Love,
and then Johnny Be Good by Chuck Berry. Right. The other songs, the in context songs, are just MacGuffins to move the content, the play along. They're nothing. The book was good. It was written by by Zemeckis' co-writer who probably wrote the majority of the movie, I guess.
Bob Gale.
Yeah, Bob Gale wrote it, and it was funny. It was so it was written well. It's not a Tony-winning book, but it was written well. One of the singers was phenomenal. The rest, who had two things, like he was a solo because he's phenomenal. Like lights were on him, dressed in gold, he's going to hit the notes. Everyone else was just serviceable. Special effects are amazing. They had DeLorean on stage. They used like a screen that came down with a video that perfectly integrated the video and the reality. So sometimes you didn't know what was happening when. It was very well done. Like being on the clock tower was video, but human size. So like you were going, is that video or is he just behind the screen? I can't really. It was hard to tell.
That's cool.
But the the play, was phenomenal. Like it was so much better than the sum of its parts. We enjoyed every second of it. Loved it, walked out having a great time. Like, not a single element what we say was great except for the special effects, which is not enough to make you like the play.
Yeah.
But like, not an element of it was great, but somehow it added up to great. Like, they all worked together in the perfect harmony. So it was a totally fun time. If it comes back to town, especially when Logan's a couple of years older, it'll be great to see.
Yeah. It's Back to the Future is one of my favorite films of all time. So
yeah, they made a lot of changes to the story for a lot of reasons. I mean, you have to, but they were all good. Like they were.
Yeah.
Like the only thing that disappointed me was in the '80s he was drinking a Diet Pepsi, and it was an old style Diet Pepsi can. So I'm like, they're setting up the Pepsi free joke, which is a weird plot hole because he gets Pepsi free wrong in the movie. He orders it as if it's a diet soda, and it's not. It's a caffeine free soda. Because he goes, "Give me a tab." Can't have a tab. You didn't order anything yet. Let me have a Pepsi free. Can't give me anything. I'm not giving you anything free. You got a Pepsi, you got to pay for it. He goes, just give me something with no sugar. And he gives him black coffee. The Pepsi free came in regular and diet. It was caffeine free before there was caffeine free Pepsi. It was Pepsi. So the joke was really miswritten in the initial. But he had the Diet Pepsi, so I thought they're setting up that joke, and then they didn't do any version of that joke at all in the play. I'm like, but they set it up. Like they went out of their way to have Diet Pepsi on the table to set up that's what he drinks.
Yeah.
Oh,
Back to the Future. This is a little different than what you just said, but so it's one of my favorite films of all time. I would say like probably top 5, definitely top 10, probably top 5. And it's weird because Bob Gale, who you just mentioned, everything I've heard about him makes me not like him. And Robert Zemeckis, who is this like super respected filmmaker, other than Back to the Future and Forrest Gump, I don't like anything that he's done.
Roger Rabbit?
Yeah, Roger Rabbit's okay.
His, right?
Roger Rabbit's okay, and I haven't seen Castaway in a long time. But like he did all those like weird like CGI movies in the early 2000s, like Beowulf and all that shit. Like, and it's just like like there's all these like weird little pieces of that where I'm like, this is my favorite movie that adds it. Like, it is the sum of it's more than the sum of its parts. I don't like the writer. Like, he seems like a real piece of shit for what he did to Crispin Glover, and Robert Zemeckis is an odd like I think he had like a really good run from Back to the Future up until like Castaway. He had like 4 or 5 really good movies, but other than that, I'm like, this guy kind of sucks and everything else. And also, he sounds like an asshole every time I hear him talk. And then, I actually, you know the Crispin Glover story, right?
I mean, he wanted more money, and then they would wanted to give him. Like, I really don't know details.
That's not the truth, though. That's what Bob Gale spread about him. So when Crispin Glover, when they made the first movie, he said that he really thought the end of the movie, not Marty. What's Marty's dad's name? Why am I forgetting? George. George should not be richer, because that's just saying like, oh, he stood up for himself and now he is materially better off. He should just be better off in spirit. Like, that would be a better message. And they were like, yeah, we're not doing that. Shut the fuck up. And
it was weird that he lived in the same house and his kids all still lived at home. That was still weird.
Yeah,
he was so much better off, but they lived in the same house with the same. And the kids still lived at home. I go to the office from my parents' house.
Yeah, and so his idea was just like,
just didn't do in the play. In the play, Marty sleeps on a bench downtown when he gets back, and when his brother comes across him on the way to the office and wakes him up. Like, it doesn't happen in the house, so his brother doesn't necessarily live at home. He goes, "What are you doing sleeping out here? Come on, guy." One guy wakes him up and he's in his suit. I always wear a suit in the office.
Jimmy Olsen. And then so he spoke up against that, or he just like said, like, aired his opinion about that, and like they kind of like not only like blew him off about it, but were kind of like, shut the fuck up and don't, And it sounds like it was Bob Gale mostly, but like Zemeckis had his back about it. And
I get it. The part of the idea was that the reason that he was not successful in anything he did in his career, in his personal life, in anything, was because he never had the guts to stand up for himself. So it made sense that he would do better.
Yeah, I'm fine with either ending.
What didn't make sense was that his first novel was coming out. Like, well, what is he successful at? They didn't explain what made him successful. If his book, after 30 years, he finally wrote what happened to him when he was 17.
It's like I always tell you. But so that I'm fine with either.
In the movie, they made it book 4. Like, the book that was coming out at the end of the movie was Back to the Future 4. That was the book he was coming out with at the end of the play.
Nice,
which made more sense than my first novel.
Yeah,
which is fourth novel.
So I'm fine with either ending. So apparently, because he was like vocal about that to them, they just like got a bad taste in their mouth. And then when they signed up for the sequel, Michael J. Fox was offered like 10 million or whatever, and they were each offered like 2 million, and he was offered less than Leah Thompson or the guy who plays Biff, whose name
Tom Wilson.
Tom Wilson. He was like offered less, and it was like very specific.
Tom Wilson in his stand-up says it's because he wanted more money.
Yeah, but that's probably what he was told.
Maybe he wanted more money because they underpaid him. I guess that's why he wanted more money.
Yeah, well, he basically was like, I
fairly want more money. He fairly wanted more money.
Yeah, he was like, George is the lead, is as much a lead as Lorraine or Biff is. Maybe not as much as Marty is, but like they were like, he's like, George is the character that the whole story hinges on.
The first one, not the second one so much,
but the second one was a lot of what the second one was because of they wanted to like film around him because they had already decided to get rid, like he had already decided he wasn't coming back, so they went and they got a guy to play him upside down with a bunch of makeup on.
I mean, how much would he have been in a story about Marty trying to save his son from going to jail? How much is Grandpa involved in that story?
Assuming that was the story that they ended up going with, which it wasn't clear that was what they were going to do. And so he was saying like, everybody got this, pay bump, and I didn't get a pay bump, like very clearly because I spoke up, and like they don't like me. And so so anyway, so yes, it is about money, but it was also about like the point of it. And it just, And I've heard, apparently, he said since that Robert Zemeckis and him have like buried the hatchet, but Bob Gale keeps like shit talking him every time he does an interview.
I would say Crispin Glover was really good in the second Charlie's Angels movie.
Yeah, he's a weird guy, but he's a good actor.
Creepy thin guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you ever seen Tom Wilson stand up?
Yeah.
You have stand up?
I saw the song that he does with
well, he does it every time. I've seen 20 different versions of the song. Like he does different jokes and different versions of it. But yeah, don't stop asking me the questions.
Yeah.
Or like when they ask him, like, "What's Michael J. Fox like?" Nice guy. What's Crispin Glover like? I never talk to him.
Kind of weird.
Yeah, different versions. He does different things. Who's the biggest asshole in Hollywood? Gary Busey. Who's the nicest guy? Adam Sandler.
Yeah, I've heard that about Adam Sandler. All right, so
yeah, should
we wrap up?
Sure. I would not be angry at that.
Me neither. I'm like, this was a good day to record, but I'm just like, I'm kind of tired. There's been a lazy weekend, but so anyway.
Yeah, I'll be up all night. I got stuff I got to do before I can, many miles to go before I sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're watching us on video and seeing my bleary eyes because I need to stay up all night and I'm proactively being tired about it, thanks for watching. And you know what? Go ahead and like the video because it helps the algorithm. If you like the video, go ahead and subscribe to the page so you can find out when there's more videos. And if you want to find out like real time, hit the notification bell. If you want to watch the video like live action, you could do that if you go to patreon.com/talking about the big stuff and either become a patron or just sign up for the free patron feed. That will allow you to watch the video. If you want to give us gifts of money, I defer to my money grubbing friend.
Patreon.com/talking about the big stuff has 4 options. Matthew already mentioned the free option, but we also have a $1 option, which will get you this episode, all the episodes 4 days early. There's the $3 version, which gets you extra spice on it. And then there's a $10 version, which is where Matthew usually says something horrific.
If I talk about the time that Mike had, that wouldn't be edited out if you had the $10 version. $10 patrons know what I just said. The rest of you don't.
Yeah. And if you're listening to us on any other, regular podcast app, give us a like or a thumbs up or a 5-star or whatever. That's great. Reviews would be great. I know that I've already mentioned it a couple times the last couple weeks, but I also have another podcast that is going on right now for a few more weeks called The Completionists. I will link that again in the show notes, but that's it's a movie podcast. We're watching all the Stanley Kubrick movies, and we made our own short film based on them. Matthew is in it. Alex, I should point this way because when I edit, you're going to be on this side of me always, not on this side like you are on my screen. Anyway, Matthew is in it. And
who else?
Alex is in it. Madhavi is in it.
Thank you.
And I do a little bit of a voiceover for it. I don't know if you've looked on IMDb, but on the IMDb credits, I gave myself the credit of misogynist, motivational misogynist is my credit name on there.
Fair.
Yeah. So check that out. It'll be in our show notes. And thanks for watching. Matthew, do you have anything to add?
I just want to thank everybody who joined us this week to talk about the big stuff. You better come back.
Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. It's just the beginning. If you have thoughts or questions or topics you'd like us to tackle in a future episode, drop us a line on our social media channels. Engage with this video when you are now watching it as a VOD on YouTube. Send us an email. We love hearing from our listeners, bringing us topics, because if you leave it up to the 3 of us, we're going to eventually be talking about underwater basket weaving. So we would appreciate you guys reaching out a little bit. Don't forget to subscribe to Talking About the Big Stuff on your favorite platform. Give us a 5-star rating. Engage with it. Criticize us. We need to grow and be better, and you're going to help us be there. You're going to help us get to that point. It really helps us more to reach out and also to keep the conversation going. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week with more big ideas and more thought-provoking discussions. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep talking about the big stuff.
The preceding podcast has been a Chocolate Diamond Media LLC production. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.